All right. Welcome, everyone. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Joanne Petit-Frère, and I'm excited to share with you this first of, many episodes, let's say, of this virtual performance series that I'm curating for Joe Goes West and CultureHub. And today I am even more excited to share with you a longtime collaborator, a dear friend of over a decade. Yeah.
14-ish years.
14-ish, maybe 30. And yeah, his name is Mark Nerys.
Everyone.
And
so how do you want to kick this off, Joanne? Do we want to maybe give an introduction to yourself and your work and say what you do?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out this camera here. I'll just lean in like this. Hey guys. Yeah, so I am a hair and textile sculptor, and I'm also an archive director, creatively directing Joe Goes West, an art production house. For those of you who have been in the loop with IG, my account, you'd see that, there's just a little explanation as to what the past, I'd say 4 years of developing Joe Goes West, what that statement is. So in those 4 years, actually, Mark and I have been in conversation developing these logos that you've seen for Joe Goes West. And yeah, this event is going to kind of go a little deeper as an intro to our next year-long conversation in developing another avatar by the name of Cora. So from PDX, aka Portland, for all of those hardcore New Yorkers who don't know what PDX is, from PDX, where Mark is, with love, Cora. Here we go.
So for those of you who don't know me, which is probably everyone, my name, Mark Nerys. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, 3D artist, longtime friend of Joanne's. We met back when we were both students in New York. I was going to Cooper, Joanne was going to FIT, and we had mutual friends that we met between. So long collaboration there, new chapter on an old partnership. And Joe Goes West was kind of the entry point or the beginning point for this new chapter where we're focusing on the avatar of Cora. And we'll be giving voice to her through our work and collaboration. And I think that's about as good a place as any to start in introducing and talking about our works. So how would you, I don't know, Joanne, how would you describe Joe Goes West, kind of your framing of it, your thinking behind it, how it got started, and what brought it to Portland?
Sure. Well, one, we both met in New York. So when you moved to Portland, that was, I've never been out West. And when we talked about, I don't know, just like meeting up, like, wow, you just moved across the state. Like, like I need to see you. So we coordinated. Made sure to kind of, I don't know, see who else was also out West, because I wanted to really explore and consider, like living out there. And I wanted to consider if my practice was, sustainable, honestly. So, taking a Greyhound by myself, I was just kind of on this like pilgrimage. It felt like kind of lo-fi too, as far as like, I didn't like go with a smartphone. I had just lost it at a rave. Shout out to Mommy Juice and Poppy Juice, with a fellow Cooper Union mate by Adam Rhodes. So my lease had just ended in my apartment. I was just like, let's make this trip out West, and went to Cali first. Like I traveled across the Southwest, took about a week, and met up with some friends in downtown LA, then Gardenia, Pasadena, and then for that summer, it was like 2016. Then went further north to Portland, and that's when we reconnected and continued to converse about what the possibilities were. You were also just transitioning from illustrating to three-dimensional work, right? Like,
kind of. I mean, I was using 3D to be an illustrator. I wasn't like landing gigs or anything doing 3D, but
you were experimenting. You were like teaching yourself, like, evolving. Yeah, that's kind of like what, like the phase that I was in too. Like I kind of felt like it was like one big workshop, because I also met up with another like dear collaborator, Marisha, who you've never met, but Nia, Tamashi, they're, of course, they introduced us. Like they introduced me to Marisha, and shout out to you, Marisha, if you're there. Like she had also moved back out West because we met in the East, and we made work together. I was helping her with some production, and like it was great to kind of get that feel of being in this new state, traveling like over 3,000 miles. Like I had never taken that trip before. And I took that trip as a way to kind of like, kind of figure out if just what that sensibility is like, for my parents having come from Haiti, like from West Caribbean, like what it was like to kind of like pick up with all your belongings and like move. And mind you, I had to put my belongings in, what do you call that? Storage, I guess. Yeah. And that's kind of like the journey that I was on. It was just like, had my books, had like a flip phone, took this bus, had conversations with strangers, and just like, just went for a ride, took an adventure, and sprayed Cora. Mark, are you seeing like this middle screen? Sorry, guys, this is a little behind the wall here, but can y'all like see my full face? Like, Mark, because
I can see your full face.
you can even like
Yeah.
this.
You're still there? Yeah.
Okay, and what about the middle screen for you?
I don't know what you're talking about for middle screen, but both our feeds look fine if that's what you're asking.
Okay, because I have 3 screens on my side here, and there's a middle screen.
Yep.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
So I know when I got out to Portland, I experienced a bit of a culture shock. And so, you know, the pace, really different. The color of the city is like very white, coming from New York. And it like, I mean, you hear about it, but like it hits you when like you're walking around the street, like you feel it. And it's hard not to take notice of it. Like when I got out here, it was like really kind of fun timing, because it was like the first sunny day after like a 6-month period of rain. So they're like, it was like a rainbow out. People were barbecuing in traffic medians. Like people were out on their bikes, taking over the street. So it was like this kind of jubilant time that happens once a year. But what was kind of your first impression of this place when you first arrived?
Okay, before I share that, just for a word bang note. Did you just say traffic median?
Yeah.
Okay. Just note it. Yeah. Yeah, the first time I got to Portland, like you said, I was definitely surprised at how homogenized, like in New York City, obviously, for all my New Yorkers, you get on the subway and it's just, it's a whole melting pot, a whole bunch of cultures. You can be in Brooklyn, you can be in Brooklyn to Queens in literally like a 15-minute walk, if you're like close to the lines, right? But like Portland didn't have like a subway system that was so like approachable. I mean, that was my experience like in LA also. But I did take the bus a lot, so that was like also a way to kind of see the land, so to speak. So yeah, it was much more homogenized for sure. The weather, I loved it in the winter. Like I remember it being like such a surprise for it to be like snowing, right? Like, do you remember that? Like it doesn't really snow in Portland.
It's rare, but it happens.
Okay. Yeah, because otherwise it was like fully like mild. It was mild, but also like once September hit, it was like raining all the time. Yeah. And yeah, like I love the libraries, Multnomah
County.
Multnomah, yeah. Such a beautiful library. Like, wow. Isn't it like the 3rd largest in the world or something?
It's the 2nd largest library system in the U.S. behind the New York Public Library System.
Okay, so we're there.
Cool. You're number 1 still.
But yeah, Portland, I loved. The food was amazing. Like, actually, the restaurant by your place, I remember, like, they had a garden in there. Do you remember that? Like,
I'm trying to think of the spot.
It like had just opened, and it was like literally, I think, on that block. But you and Andrew, yeah.
Well, that place closed down like 3 times.
Oh, it did? High turnover. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like I was really impressed with the quality of the food. Like there's a serious culture of like good food there, and really appreciated that. And for all my tree blowers, wink, wink, Also, like, MJ was just legalized like recreationally there, and that was also like, I felt like really proud to be a part of that happening there, then. So yeah, shout out to Service too, because also I was working with them.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about that part? Because I feel like you were really intentional about finding other artists and artist communities, especially like creators of color, since like you have to be intentional to find people.
Yeah.
So you want to just kind of walk through what that looked like and who you happened to find and what they were doing?
Well, you also were a big help in that too. Like, I remember, yeah, we took a trip. I forget the name of the park. But yeah, we were just like looking for local events that were hosted by like, organizations that were of color, and Service PDX, shout out to Cherry. They have a beautiful space. I think it was like an old farmhouse that was converted into like a bike shop, and then they converted into this huge like venue, this performance venue and production studio.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the spot off Sandy Boulevard.
In the southeast.
It
actually was like middle, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Middle East Side, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was great. That was where actually the images for Joe Goes West, like the ones that we'll refer to again in the slideshow, those were actually shot there just before I returned back east as a sort of encapsulation of, my residency there essentially. And yeah, here we are 4 years later, expanding on what that means, like kind of traveling, like for all you creators out there, like, and entrepreneurs, freelancers, like this concept of working like at home or traveling for work, like it's fairly, I think, a very millennial conversation as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, not just millennial, but I was interested in what that interpretation is for us, like what that means now. Working with hair, making these tactile objects, and creating installations, storytelling through hair, exploring identity, like what that means, Mark, like what was your experience in like Portland affecting your work? Did you find?
Well, the thing is, my work had, when I moved out, it was like really commercial. Because around that time, I had already gotten picked up by New York Magazine and Esquire and, some other national magazines. And I mean, for the first kind of portion of me moving out here, all my clients were like, "You're gonna have work," and then I got here and I didn't. But it was also right before.
Life, yeah.
What?
Freelance life, yeah. Like you know.
I mean, no knock on them because they eventually came back around, but it was just, it's a scary thing when you move to a new place and then like you think you have a job and you don't. And I also came out shortly before Occupy broke out, and that hit Portland in a big way. And it also was great for me, just kind of selfishly, because I didn't know people in the city yet. And there were all these people from like really different experiences, but were super like driven to activism and social justice projects. that I ended up getting connected with, and that became my network just permanently. I met like everyone that I know today. I can probably track back to that space, within a few degrees of separation. So that helped me get landed, and that put me kind of in a position where I started doing work on smaller campaigns. So like people who are running for city council or like ballot measures, or working on flyers and posters and pamphlets for activist friends in their projects and their organizing efforts. So it kind of, my work ended up splitting in two directions. One was like hyper local and community focused, and then the other end was still this very commercial work where I was still reporting back to art directors and editors in New York, and working for magazines and newspapers. And some of that still continues today. Sorry, is that answering the question, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like, how did you find, moving to Portland affecting your work? Moving to a new city and trying to find your communities, and like you were still engaged with art directors from New York, right? So you still kept that line of thread also.
Still keep up with them. Working a little less often, doing that stuff. But I mean, it's because my attention and my energy is elsewhere.
Yeah, you're doing VR right now.
Doing what?
VR, like your 3D. Yeah.
Yep. I'm doing VR avatars and environments. And so I came to that through, I learned 3D.
By the way.
What?
I said they're gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you.
I told you that already, but just saying live.
But I learned 3D as a way to be a better illustrator, because once you can build things quickly, proficiently in 3D, you don't have to worry about them falling into your illustrations with you don't have to worry about things falling into perspective or being mathematically incorrect in terms of its geometry. And that kind of frees you up to focus on more of the gestural elements, or at least in my work. I mean, people have their different workflows, but that's why I did it. It wasn't to do 3D, it was to do 2D better.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember you sharing that, and freeze as in like you're more able to, as opposed to freezing up, right? Yeah. I that was like such a like to me, like almost like an audience hack, because I just wouldn't think that. I would think the other way around, building from 2D up to 3D. So that was
well, I mean, there's a high learning curve in terms of learning the programs. But once you're over that, it's such a great tool to have in your kit.
What programs are you using?
I love Blender. I sing its high praises because it's free and it's open source, and it's got a really great online community of people offering tutorials. And it's always going to be free. It's like, written into its like mission that it's going to remain open source. But maybe we could, I mean, that's getting kind of technical. Maybe we could kind of use that to segue into the work.
Sure.
And so, I mean, for me, like even before I was working for the newspapers and the magazines, I was working as a patent illustrator. And so one of the aesthetics that I'm really drawn to and have always been drawn to are like the emergency evacuation pamphlets.
Yeah, like spec drawings.
Yeah. I feel like telling you how not to freak out when your plane's going down. And I've been in love with those drawings like ever since I was a kid. I mean, there's something so like soothing, but also industrial,
Mm.
but also really funny about them.
Yeah.
And so that was an aesthetic that I kind of picked up really early on in my work, and it never went away.
Right.
And
If I can
so,
speak to that a little bit,
please, yeah, go for it.
well, coming from FIT, like, with fashion design, I was always illustrating fashion. And, I love that aspect of your work, that you are also very illustrative, and your line work, just like, it was awesome. Very tight, very technical. And then your color play. Um, so yeah, like, I really appreciated kind of seeing, yeah, like my work also juxtaposed with yours in that way. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the work, and this is why we're collaborating, is it plays well off each other because it's so different, right?
Yeah.
I feel like my favorite pieces of yours are the ones that get really big and regal, and ornate and are intricate. And there's like this really like beautiful hand quality that's in your work that mine just kills. But when they're next to each other, I think they bring out the better parts of each other.
Yay. Thank you.
So I don't know. Do you want to talk about some of the themes that you started to hit on in Joe Goes West, and then maybe we can kind of carry that into talking about this new collaboration?
Sure. Well, coming from a fashion design background, like working retail and also working at the costume museum, I wanted to kind of like bring something that I wanted to see personally. Like, how can you bring together fantasy with also historical application, and also empower economically? Like, how can I participate in, capitalism, but not have it be so like fast fashion, which can at times be vapid, So I wanted to kind of bring that element of taking your time and really appreciating handwork and storytelling, and, the art of writing, of reading. So I'd say those are kind of like tactile elements that really inspired Joe Goes West, is kind of like really appreciating the journey, and process to delivering storytelling, in this kind of fantastical, again, historical kind of setting, rewriting history also, yeah.
Yeah. It's especially I'm feeling the storytelling part. Do you want to, because now we're taking some of those themes, right, and we're being more intentional about how we place these into a story, and we're creating a character.
Okay, Mark, sorry,
Yes,
before
yes,
we get into the character here,
please.
So how do you, I mean, I already kind of know this answer, but I'd love to hear you also speak on it. But how do you think both our personal histories, um, thank you, kind of like, yeah, influences our work? I mean, maybe your thesis, sorry, I'm like partly answering for you, but I don't know.
I mean, I used to do a lot more work around the DR, like the Dominican Republic, and my own family's history, because
And I'm yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
both our families are from the same island, but different
yeah.
countries on that island.
Hispaniola.
And so, like my my work kind of came through interviews with my family and getting them to open up about that history. And my work was kind of my avenue into their past and their experience and talking about things that they kind of hadn't for decades. And I mean, it always sits with me. You know, it's always in the back of my mind because it's, you know, family and it's history. But I think that really what I got most from that experience was just the skills to be able to communicate other people's stories, because, you know, though it was my family, it wasn't my experience that I was trying to communicate. And I think that project was the first of many exercises in being able to tell stories through images. And I think that's the part that still carries through to today.
Yeah.
So how do you want to answer that one for your history in your work?
Well, I think because Haitian history hasn't really been shared typically, I kind of had to do my own research, like talking to family, reading, because also there's a lot that goes unsaid because of trauma, frankly. And I wanted to kind of create a space of catharsis, but that also reflected some of that pain. So horror is a theme that is in the aesthetic, and so is spirituality, uh, which is why the hand is such a focus. Because I think building with the hand is, I don't know, I think there's just something so pure about it, you know? Um, Especially now that we're, just more technologically driven. I think more and more the hand is, it's just frankly sacred. So, so to answer that, Haiti, my history of being Haitian and kind of learning the history of that. There's a book actually that I read on the way to Portland called Haiti's First Inside Account by Elizabeth Abbott. And that was, I would say, kind of like a horror drama, historical drama, because the author was the wife of a general that was of the Duvalier family, who, for those of you familiar with Haiti's history, they were dictators. So like, it really put into context like why my family fled Haiti, and what they were trying to build, and some of their how do you say, just like what they wanted for their family here in the States. So if that answers that, as far as like history, like personal history, like how me being from Haiti, you also being from DR, and how those two interplay, because that's also taboo in a way, you know? There's been a lot of, strife between the two parts. And that's another reason why I think, our work is, really interesting to be juxtaposed, like having those conversations, you know?
Right. I mean, but also at the same time, we're like, I'm New Jersey, like you're New York, like we're Northeast US kids. So like our window is like our families.
I thought you were going to say more liberal.
I don't know.
I think it. I mean, it's yeah.
But like we're both on this process of discovery through others, is, others that are close to us.
Yes. Yeah, I forget that is a thing, but yeah, hence this development of an avatar to kind of explore that with some distance,
Yeah. So Cora as a character is, she stems from a design that the two of us worked up together during Joe Goes West. So do you want to talk about how that design developed and how we're bringing her into this new work and how we're developing her further?
Sure. Well, should we refer to the slideshow? No, not yet. Well, with Braid Cora, who's the face of Joe Goes West, she is wearing a like cornucopia. I think that's how you say cornucopia.
Cornucopia, maybe.
It ends with
It's like the Thanksgiving horn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like for harvesting, that's kind of like the traditional, I guess, symbol for that. And I wanted to have that representing kind of like this, like a horn of plenty, which is like, I think, the Latin literal definition. So I felt like a braided horn, was just like so fun, so kind of camp, and also a statement to just like what I thought braid work does, the work that goes into it, but also taking it to a fantastical place where you're interpreting hair in that way.
Well, there was also something especially clever about using that in a crown.
Right. Yeah. So
because there's like a double signifier there.
Yeah. And Braid Cora, I mean, the name actually came after. So yeah, I felt like that was a good embodiment of a crown of braids that also represented harvest, full of ideas, full of richness, of wealth, of spirituality, and also of just like regalness that is in our history, So I wanted to, again, put that at the forefront. Yeah.
And then for the face that wears the crown, that wears the cornucopia, I remember us talking about Wendy's logos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, what did you think of that, actually? Like,
I mean, I thought that it was
of that interpretation, like
what I liked about it, especially because you had just come, across the country on a bus, and one of the things that remains the same throughout the landscape are the fast food joints. There's a consistency to these spaces where they're like their own embassies of U.S. consumer culture.
And some are like just out west, like in and out.
And so I think we wanted to capture that feeling that this space belongs to that visual language of industry, of consumerism, that she was cheerful and polished and presentable, in a way that was easy to digest, but also kind of tongue in cheek. And I feel like the further we push that logo and the more of your hair pieces we try to incorporate into the logo, the funnier she kind of got.
Yeah.
And the more of a person like she felt to be, and the more I could start to kind of relate to her, like as not just an icon, but potentially as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the humor aspect is very important, because I think that's a side, like me as an artist, that doesn't really come out with my work, because it's, they're sculptures that are masked and crowned. So it's very, just regal, poserly. So I feel like with Joe Goes West, it was a way to kind of, be more relatable and show a side that was more just funny. Like I thought it was funny. Yeah.
Well, it's also your work. Your work gets brought into spaces that are sometimes very high fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like Italian Vogue is like one of those places,
Right.
where you see it, and like, it's strong in its merits, but it's also because of the positioning in that like editorial space. It also has to be very serious, where Cora was the opposite.
Right. Like she can be serious, but she's also going to be, I don't know, she can be sinister. I feel like that's kind of like letting her wings flap a bit, because she doesn't have to be pigeonholed into this, always serious embodiment, So I actually kind of learned that when I was interning at Ralph Lauren, as far as like having a relatability and being able to kind of have a tiering, frankly, like of an engagement, So he had Purple Label, which is where I was, which was his runway design label, and he was there every week. But then we'll also go to Blue Label, Black Label, with everyone on the team, design team, going to the meetings, and like I thought that was really inspirational, to be able to see him just be so hands-on with all of his labels. So Joe Goes West was a way to do that as well, and utilizing Wendy's, which I love Wendy's. Can't eat it so much now, but I still love it. And this was a way to, again, just like be tongue in cheek, kind of throw in like food as an element. But so hence Cora. So as far as like what we're doing with her now, like I think really building, systems, like how is she engaging with what's happening now, like when we first created her, this was in 2016,
Yeah.
So how is she engaging with the pandemic, with, riots, our incoming president, our leaving president? Like, these are all conversations that we want to open up and have fun with too.
Because she's how we'll be talking about our respective cities.
New York City.
And talking to each other through her in a way.
Yeah.
And it's wild right now. Things are a little wild.
Yeah.
Portland's been wild. The fires have been wild. The street action has been a journey. We're going through so many enormous shared experiences that transcend state line, and being able to talk about that in a way that doesn't, bring everything down is going to be a challenge. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to bringing Cora through this ride.
Yeah, same here. And this is exciting because I feel like that's kind of, a responsibility, I think, as makers, as artists, is how do we transcend that pain into spaces of catharsis? And if not transcend it, at least engage with it so that it's, yes, that it's dealt with. Yeah. So
I just want to do a time check and note that we are in the final quarter of the hour.
Okay. So where are we at?
So if there are questions, we can start to answer them, or we can just keep talking through our process and what we anticipate doing over the coming year. But just want to put that little check in there.
Sure.
Where is Cora going? Portland.
Yes, from New York City to Portland. That is.
Well, let's talk about what she's doing and how she's reporting back as well with that. So, the way that I understand it is that Cora will be kind of starting with the events of this past year, absorbing the culture, the events, the moments of this city, and the impressions that we both had and we can imagine through our avatar her having as she experiences the city for the first time in this moment, and report back through letters, through works, through images, through stickers, through anything that we can make together that fits the moment.
And how can our viewers access this traveling of Cora?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We are launching an Instagram site for our avatar, Cora. Her handle on Instagram is going to be at CORA_NYC 2 PDX.
Yes.
So at Cora
_
NYC 2 PDX.
And the number 2.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
this is our announcement.
Yay! And
but yep, you're hearing it first if you're tuned into this.
Yes.
So.
And what are we going to be sharing on there? There's some footage on there now, actually, right?
We got some process stuff. We got the rotating Cora logo. We have some sketches. We've got a postcard of the elk statue, or the new elk statue, because it's been torn down and built up a few times. And we got some of your braid work. I think we got the braids you're wearing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right for staple right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have another question.
Yeah. Do you want to take this one? Why did we choose to make an avatar?
Well, let's see. It was already naturally what we were doing, but in context to this project, we wanted again to kind of put both of our experiences into a creative embodiment. So yeah, wanting to do that in a fun way and doing that with an animated character was our way of doing that. Yeah. Cool.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Let me see if I can take the next one. How does Cora fit into the larger constellation of Joanne's, what's this? Curve? Orv? Uev? Is that like aura? Work. Well, that's a question for you.
That's another word bank. So Cora, she is an animated interpretation of what I feel doesn't get shared a lot in my work, and this is another mode of expression. And wanting to kind of share the process of building a commercially engaged entity that is approachable, because my work's in galleries and museums, and sometimes it's not accessible to the larger public if you're not visiting these spaces. So this is a way to kind of be grassroots about it and offer a lane where, my work can just be more accessible and speak to the same themes that I think doesn't get to be shared with, the larger public. Yeah.
All right. So we got.
That was a great answer. Great answer.
Great answer. Great
But thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Whoever you are out there.
So we got 8 minutes left. Time for a couple more questions.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, let's see if any more questions coming up. I'm pulling up some that I have as well, like some design ones. Oh, Mark, I have a question about one of your pieces.
Yeah.
So the TSA, that's one of my favorite spec illustrations that you've done. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
can we pull that? What number is that on our slide list? 14.
Yes.
Like the TSA airport scene. But what's the question about it?
So what inspired you to do that, to kind of capture that scene?
So that scene was actually a piece that I did for Slate magazine. And the article was about airports and their place in American culture and society and like the American imagination. And I mean, everyone hates.
So sorry, Mark. For tech, I think they may need a little help or assistance with pulling up the image. It's the it's in the airport, and it's of the entire like crowd and of checking in, basically your luggage. But yeah, there we go.
That's the one. So I don't even remember what this particular article was like, because it was a series of articles. It was, a whole package of
magazine
for Slate.
Slate. Okay.
Yep. And I worked with a wonderful art director on that. Another Cooper alum, Lisa Larson. Yeah, Lisa Larson Walker.
Did not know that.
And everyone hates the TSA and like the process and the machinery. And I mean, sure, I do too.
I personally don't. I used to work at the airport, so I I know the workers. Yeah, but continue.
but there's something so like beautiful at the same time that it's cold and weirdly like fascistic. Fascist?
Yeah.
Whatever the adjective of that is. But you don't have to like live in that space. You're like you're a visitor and you move through it. And I just wanted to capture that space at a really calm moment when there weren't a lot of people kind of making their way through the lines, and just kind of like meditate on what this machinery all kind of looks like coming together almost as a landscape. Because there's something strange about airports in that everything is orchestrated and man-made and timed, and like as far as the eye can see in every direction. And it's like it's like the anti-nature, you know. It's like there is no place that feels quite like it. And airports only really exist as like an in-between space. No one goes to an airport to like arrive at the airport and visit the airport. And so I in this work
just work there.
What?
Yeah. You work there.
But if you work there, I mean, you're going home at night, right? No one goes to the airport to like
to stay there.
Yeah. You know, everyone's got a reason for being at the airport. No one goes there to just hang out. So I really and I love airports. So I just got to really just spend a month on this project and just be in this space without having to get anywhere.
And this space, like, how did you like get to this? Did you do a hand illustration first, or like
I ended up, all the people I drew by hand and all the machines I made using Blender and rendering it out, and you know, mixing those rendered line drawings with like Photoshop and Illustrator files, and really compositing the scene. But I mean, keeping it in the style and lineage of the emergency evacuation pamphlets, because I felt like that was the visual language.
This is like, yeah. Sorry.
Right, but you know, that was the style.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm really excited for, like in this project with Cora, is what are these systems that we're able to kind of put her in, and how she's like engaging with it, and how she's engaging with people in it. So I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to also just have conversations with, I don't know, this was just thinking down the line here, but like, you know, the postcards that we'll be sending to one another, like of letters, and also sharing that with the audience, like digitally, and having their responses be a part of, you know, that almost like a digital pen pal.
Yeah. Well,
oh wow.
Speaking of following us, we are at the end of the hour. So how
already?
Joanne, do you want to share how viewers can continue to follow our work and check in with Live Lab? And
sure. So you can follow Mark at Mark Nerys, spelled MarkNerys, on IG. You know, where most people will at. You could also follow Joe Goes West, spelled J-O, just J-O, G-O-E-S, West. And if you'd like, you could also follow me, just me, Joanne Petit-Frère, Joannepetitfrere. And of course, our Cora's new home at Cora _ NYC, number 2, PDX. Yeah, those are the 4 channels that you can engage with. And CultureHub too.
And CultureHub, and check out the links that are in the outro. Thanks for joining us tonight, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Joanne.
Woo! Bye.